That morning in the Texas state capitol, the air carried an unusual energy. The international hearing room felt like a pressure cooker about to explode. The state's most prominent political faces, journalists, and activists, all eyes were fixed on the witness table. The man sitting there adjusted the microphone with the confidence of someone who had spent decades in Texas politics and had seen every side of power. His voice was steady and practiced, the kind that came from years of testifying before Congress. Today, he was here to defend his latest legislative proposal, the Community Protection Act, a bill he had been promoting to Texans as the answer to their growing safety concerns. When he began reading his opening statement, every word reflected years of political training. He spoke of law and order, local authority, and community safety, words that tend to win public trust. But at the other end of the table, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's attention was fixed elsewhere. She was analyzing every phrase, searching for the deeper intent behind the polished rhetoric. Jasmine, the representative from Dallas, had earned a strong reputation for her sharp legal mind and fearless constitutional defense. At 42, she had already become known as a woman unafraid to challenge power. Before the hearing, Jasmine had read every line of the bill. She had cross-referenced it with constitutional law, consulted civil liberties experts, and studied real-world examples from other states. To her, it was clear that this legislation, while modest on the surface, hid a dangerous potential. The language in sections 7 through 12 was so broad that a peaceful protest could be labeled as a disruptive activity, a critical social media post could be treated as a criminal act, and local police could be granted the power to shut down any gathering they considered potentially disruptive. The atmosphere inside the committee room shifted when the chairman recognized Jasmine for questioning. Journalists adjusted their cameras, staffers fell silent, and everyone in the room knew something important was about to happen. She began speaking. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," she said clearly. "I appreciate you taking the time to appear before this committee to discuss your Community Protection Act. But before we get into the details, I want to make sure I understand your central argument correctly. Are you telling us this bill is necessary to keep Texans safe? Is that accurate?" The witness nodded confidently, but Jasmine began to pull apart his reasoning, point by point. She quoted specific lines from Section 8 and asked, "Doesn't this language authorize local authorities to detain someone without substantial evidence, based only on a suspicion that they might disrupt public order?" The witness hesitated, trying to reformulate his response. Yet each answer only invited a sharper question. Jasmine cited legal precedents, Terry v. Ohio, Brandenburg v. Ohio, and the Houston Freedom March case, each reference revealing constitutional weaknesses in the bill's design. Across the committee table, members occasionally nodded or scribbled notes, aware that they were witnessing more than a policy dispute. This was political theater at its finest. Reporters typed furiously, and within minutes, Jasmine's words began trending online. Someone tweeted a live stream link. "Watch Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett take this bill apart piece by piece." In the audience, an elderly grandmother turned to her granddaughter and whispered, "This is what democracy looks like." She herself had once been arrested during a peaceful protest against pollution near her grandchildren's school. For her, Jasmine wasn't just a politician. She was a voice for every citizen who had ever been silenced. Jasmine continued, "We all want safety, but safety does not mean living in fear. The Constitution gives us the right to speak, to assemble, and to petition our government. This bill threatens those very freedoms that define our republic." For a few seconds, the room went silent. The chairman cleared his throat, but didn't interrupt. Cameras continued rolling as millions of viewers across the country watched a woman calmly dismantle a policy proposal at the heart of state power. The witness tried to regain control. "Congresswoman, our goal is only to protect communities, not to limit rights," he replied. Jasmine smiled slightly. "And that," she said, "is exactly what worries me, that you cannot imagine safety without control." The exchange lasted 40 minutes, but echoed through the political landscape for weeks. Media outlets described it as a masterclass in constitutional defense. Analysts said Jasmine's argument wasn't just political, it was deeply legal, moral, and civic at the same time. Later, at a local town hall meeting, when she was asked about the hearing, Jasmine said, "My job is to read legislation carefully, understand its real-world effects, and speak up when something threatens Constitution freedoms." She added, "The true measure of a government's strength isn't how much power it holds over its people, but how well it protects their rights." The room erupted in applause. A college student stood and said, "Ma'am, you've shown us that democracy isn't a permanent gift. It's something we have to protect every day." Jasmine nodded and replied, "That's right. Democracy has to be defended every time someone tries to limit it." Her speech sparked a movement called Citizens for Constitutional Accountability. On social media, thousands of Americans expressed support. Within weeks, public approval for the bill plummeted. Lawmakers were forced to withdraw it for revisions. Major newspapers called it a Democratic victory. But Jasmine didn't treat it as a win. "This is just the beginning," she said in an interview. Every time a new law is proposed, we must remember that no claim of safety can come at the expense of liberty. Her closing remark went viral. Safety without freedom is just control. From that day forward, she hung a new phrase on her office wall. Democracy is a daily act. She knew that democracy breathes through every hearing, every debate, and every question asked by those brave enough to speak truth to power. And that day, under the bright Texas morning sun, Jasmine Crockett didn't just stop a bill. She reminded an entire generation what the Constitution truly stands for: the dignity and voice of every American. Thanks for watching video, and like the video and subscribe to the channel.